A Werewolf Shifter Romance. There comes a time in every parent's life when their child inevitably asks for a pet. It's as unavoidable as skin knees and bedtime negotiations. Most parents get off easy. Their kids want hamsters that roll around in plastic balls, or cats that sleep 20 hours a day. Maybe if they're ambitious, a puppy that gives a few shears before learning to fetch slippers. Elena's kid wants a wolf, not a dog that looks like a wolf. Not a hybrid with just enough wild DNA to seem exotic. An actual predatory, possibly rabid wolf pup he's somehow convinced to follow him home. She should say no, obviously. What kind of mother lets her 10-year-old keep an apex predator as a pet? The kind whose son hasn't smiled in months. And the kind who has no way of knowing that the wolf is actually a 9-year-old little girl. In her defense, Elena is too busy worrying about fleas and ticks. What she should have been worrying about is the girl's father, an alpha whose blood runs cold at the thought of a human touching his precious daughter. A father who is tracking her scent across miles of wilderness, straight to Elena's front door. A man prepared to tear down walls, break bones, and unleash hell itself to reclaim what's his. Chapter 1. Please, Mommy, can we keep it? Elena stares into her son's hopeful eyes as he cradles the furry creature to his chest. The puppy is suspiciously still, watching her with almost human eyes. He's so well behaved. Nom, Jeremy argues, his voice rising with enthusiasm. For the first time since they moved to Pine Haven 3 months ago. Look, he's super obedient and quiet, and won't bother the guests at all. Baby, Elena starts to protest, folding her arms across her chest. How do you even know it was there? Jeremy pouts, making her roll her eyes. Mom, radar is better than military-grade surveillance equipment, especially when your 10-year-old starts sneaking food from the kitchen and whispering to his closet, she says. Well, you gotta admit, he's been a really good boy. Jeremy insists, holding the animal closer. He's been here for 2 days already. Glut? Elena's eyebrows shoot up to her hairline. She had not known it had been that long. I mean, he's been here for 2 hours already. Jeremy clears his throat, adjusting his crooked glasses with one finger. And you never heard him bark, did you? That's a really, really good dog. Elena sighs, pushing her short brown hair away from her face. She knows Jeremy is having a hard time adjusting to his new school. He won't complain because he never complains. But she knows the 2 quiet afternoons, the way he doesn't talk about making friends, and Jeremy never asks for anything. Ever. Plus, she has nothing against dogs, really. In fact, she's always wanted one herself. But the only problem is, baby, this isn't a dog, Elena says, bending down to eye level with the creature. Jeremy blinks, looks at the pup in his arms, then back at Elena. I'm pretty sure it's a wolf. Elena narrows her eyes, observing the distinctly pointed muzzle, the thick coat, and the unmistakable wildness in its amber eyes. Where did you even find it? In the woods behind the playground, Jeremy says. He was hurt, see? He gently reveals a small bandage on the animal's front paw. I used the first aid kit from the bathroom. Oh, sweetie. You can't just bring wild animals home. Elena tries to reason. They're not pets. They probably have all sorts of diseases and parasites. And I checked for ticks. Jeremy interrupts. That's not. Please, Mom, Jeremy whispers, his voice cracking. He needs me. The wolf, because Elena is 100% certain it's a wolf, looks up at her with big, sorrowful eyes. It whimpers softly, lowering its head, in what seems like a deliberate appeal to her sympathy. Elena feels her resolve weakening. Damn it. The phone rings from the living room, its shrill tone echoing through the old Victorian house. That must be Meg from downstairs. Elena says, I'll be right back. What about Fangs? Jeremy calls after her. You named it Fangs, Elena asks, turning back with a raised eyebrow. He's got good ones, Jeremy replies. Elena sighs. It can stay tonight, she concedes. Just tonight. And after that. Jeremy presses, his eyes lighting up with hope. Haven't decided yet, Elena says firmly, heading down the stairs of their top-floor apartment to the main part of the inn below. The phone at the front desk is ringing off the hook, and Elena can hear Meg's harried voice, trying to calm someone down. She hurries through the hallway, decorated with wall-mounted postcards of Pine Haven's scenic mountains. Finally, Meg exclaims when Elena emerges into the lobby. She's standing behind the front desk, receiver pressed between her ear and shoulder, frantically clicking through the ancient computer system. There's a double booking for room 3 this weekend. The system shows the Andersons arriving Friday. I've got Mrs. Miller on the phone and Elena takes the phone from Meg. Crisis averted, she says after sorting out the booking mess, eyeing the pile of bills waiting for her attention. Now on to my Jeremy crisis. What Jeremy crisis? Meg asks. Kid's a saint, and like his mother. Elena shoots her a glare. Well, the saint has brought home a wolf pup, she says, massaging her temple. He brought home a wolf? Meg's voice rises an octave. A wolf pup, Elena corrects. Meg squints her eyes at her. Please, tell me you're not letting him keep it. Just for tonight, Elena defends. Meg's jaw drops. You can't be serious, Elena. Wolves are dangerous. They're not appropriate for a child or an inn, for that matter. Look, I know, okay? The kid had such a rough time since he moved here, and you should have seen his face tonight. Meg. First real smile in months, so get him on Nintendo like every parent does. Meg argues. With what money? Elena sighs. At least the wolf is free. Oh, no, Meg groans. You're going to let him keep it, aren't you? I haven't decided anything. Elena protests. But just so you know, that wolf is really cute. She looks around the front office. At the vintage check-in desk she'd refinished herself, a hand-painted sign welcoming guests to Pine Haven Inn, an antique key rack that had belonged to her great-aunt. 3 months of backbreaking work to turn this old family property into a functioning business, and she's barely making ends meet. And now her son wants to add a wolf to the mix. Chapter 2. Ethan sits cross-legged on his bedroom floor, arranging a small pile of beef jerky strips. Beside his new pet. It's going to be okay, Ethan whispers. Mom said you can stay for now, and once she really gets to know you, she'll let you stay forever. Fangs tilts his head, eyes fixed on Ethan's face. You're a good listener, Ethan says, smiling. It's nice having someone to talk to, who doesn't interrupt or tell him to speak up, or make fun of his glasses. Suddenly, Fangs yelps, a high-pitched, almost human sound, and bolts across the room, diving into Ethan's closet. Fangs! Ethan stands up, confused. Strange noises come from the closet. Rustling, thumping. Ethan's heart pounds. Is Fangs hurt? Did he fell in there to have an accident? Taking a deep breath, Ethan inches toward the closet. Hello? He calls out, his voice embarrassingly squeaky. Gathering his courage, he yanks the door open, wrapped in his favorite blue sweater. Clutching it around herself like a makeshift dress is a girl. The girl who definitely hadn't been there before. So, naturally, Ethan screams. Reflexively, the girl screams right back. What are you doing here? Ethan demands. Where's Fangs? He pushes the closet door wider, scanning the small space. His winter boots, his rain jacket. No wolf. Where is he? Ethan asks again, staring at the little girl. She has wild red hair, which reminds him of Fang's fur, and is about his age, maybe a bit younger, with freckles scattered across her nose and cheeks. Left, the girl tries biting her lip. What? Where? Ethan asks, looking into the closet once more. It's completely empty except for his belongings and this strange girl. He looks at the girl, then the closet, and the girl again. Fine, you win, the girl blurts out, throwing her hands up. I'm Fangs. Ethan blinks. You're what? Him. The wolf. Well? I was always a girl. Switch forms, not genders. The girl adds, like this is somehow the most relevant piece of information here. You switch forms. Ethan's mouth hangs open. It's crazy that you don't know how to differentiate a female wolf from a male actually. The little girl insists, nervously tugging his sweater tighter around herself. Don't they teach you things at human school? Human school? Ethan repeats, bewildered. Whatever you call it, she says with a shrug. Look, I can prove I'm Fangs. How? You fed me beef jerky and saltini crackers yesterday. You told me your mom would be mad if she found out you were sneaking food from the kitchen. And you read me 3 chapters from that book about the kids who find a magic wardrobe. She points to his copy of The Lion, the Witch in the Wardrobe, on his nightstand. Ethan's eyes widen. Who are you? He asks. My real name is Ava. She extends her hand like an adult would, which strikes Ethan as both weird and kind of cool. Ava Keen. Ethan shakes her hand automatically, his brain still trying to process what's happening. But how? I'm a shifter, Ava explains, perching on the edge of his bed like she owns it. Part human, part wolf. It can turn into either one. Why didn't you just say so before? Ethan asks, thinking it must have been awkward for Ava to act like a pet. When he'd scratched behind her ears, Ava rolls her eyes. Because I can't talk as a wolf, duh. Okay, well, why didn't you just turn back and tell me? Now it's Ava's turn to look embarrassed. I've been having trouble switching back and forth between forms, she mumbles. Hi. Ethan asked. What's the problem? Ava's head snaps up. It's not a problem. It's very common for shifters my age, actually. She quips, lifting her chin defiantly. I didn't mean. Ethan starts, but stops. He's more focused on wrapping his head around the situation. So, you're a wolf and a human all at once? Yes, Ava says, watching him carefully. Ethan gapes, and then, that's so cool, he exclaims. Ava's face breaks into a grin. Right? She sits up straighter, practically preening. Can I be a shifter too? Ethan asks, eagerly. How awesome would it be if he could turn into a wolf? Whenever he wanted. No, you have to be born one, Miva explains in a tone that suggests she believes Ethan to be particularly slow. Isn't there like a thing where if you bite me, I'll turn into one? Ethan suggests, remembering werewolf movies he wasn't supposed to watch. Well, yes, but you wouldn't survive, Ava says matter-of-factly. It would kill you. Ethan gulps, which Ava notices. Don't worry, I won't bite you. Ever. S forbidden. By who? By our alpha, obviously. Okay. Ethan nods, then pauses. What's an alpha? Ava's eyes widen. You don't know what an alpha is? She sits up straighter. The alpha is the pack leader. Strongest, fastest, most powerful wolf in the whole pack. You have a pack? Ethan asks. Ava blinks at him for several seconds. Well, of course I do. Otherwise, I'd be a rogue, Ava tells him. And in the pack, everyone has to do what the alpha says. He protects everyone and makes all the important decisions. And he can even command other wolves with just his voice. Wow. Ethan whispers. impressed. And is he nice? Ava blinks at him for several seconds. He doesn't have to be nice, she tells him slowly. He's the alpha. Okay, Ethan says. But, though I guess he does tell nice bedtime stories, Ava concedes with a pout. He hasn't done it in a while. Your alpha reads bedtime stories? Ethan asks. He had imagined some kind of massive wolf warrior, and somehow the image doesn't quite fit. Oh, Ava chuckles. Not usually, no. He does with me. Because he's my daddy. Ethan thinks perhaps Ava should have lead with that. But he doesn't have an alpha or a father. So, what does he know? Crap, Ethan says. You probably need to get back home or something now, don't you? To his surprise, Ava vehemently shakes her head. Definitely not, she says. The alpha will be furious that I've left. Who knows if he's going to let me back in at all? He was already very disappointed in me. For not being able to shift back. Is that why you ran away? Ethan asks. Ava shrugs, looking purposely away. It's not their fault you can't shift back. Ethan protests. I'm sure you did your best. At best isn't enough. Ava mumbles. Other wolves my age have no trouble shifting back. I'm a pretty bad shifter. That's not true, Ethan says firmly. You're super cool. I wish I could do what you can do. Ava smiles hesitantly. You really mean that? Of course I do, Ethan exclaims. Can you show me how you shift? Okay, Ava says, chirping up. She closes her eyes, her face scrunching up in concentration. For a moment, nothing happens. Then suddenly, where the little girl had been sitting, there's now a sandy-colored wolf pup. Ethan's jaw drops. Wow, he gasps. That's so cool. Fangs. Ava gives a happy little yip. Her tail wagging furiously. Oh my God. Mom is going to freak when I tell her about this, Ethan exclaims. Ava barks sharply and backs away, shaking her head vigorously. Wait, you don't want me to tell her? Ethan asks, suddenly understanding. But why not? Ava just looks at him, those amber eyes somehow managing to look pleading. Okay, I won't tell. It'll be our secret, Ethan promises. Chapter 3. We should really take Fangs to the vet today, Elena says the next morning, pouring milk over Ethan's cereal. Get him checked out. Ethan's spoon freezes halfway to his mouth. Fangs is a girl, he says. Purposely ignoring the rest, Elena leans against the kitchen counter of their small apartment above the inn, studying her son. Is everything okay at school, honey? She asks, scarefully. Ethan shoots her a confused glance. Mom, it's Saturday, he reminds her, making Eleanor roll her eyes. I mean generally, kiddo, how are things going? Ethan's eyes shift away from hers. Fine. Elena opens her mouth to press further. When her alarm beeps, breakfast service for the guests starts in 15 minutes. Darn it, she sighs. I've gotta go. Want to bring your homework to the dining room? I should stay with Fangs, Ethan says, reaching down to scratch the wolf pup's ears. She'd be lonely. Elena wants to insist, but the clock is ticking. And Mrs. Henderson from room 4. It's positively feral if her coffee isn't waiting. Exactly at 7. Guilt gnaws at Elena as she ties her apron though. Back in Portland, Ethan had friends. Not many, but a couple. Here in Pine Haven, he seems more isolated than ever. But when her grandma Mabel died and left Elena, a rambling Victorian where she'd grown up, it had seemed like a miracle. Instead of managing someone else's hotel, she could finally own her own business. A dream come true, except at what cost? Her son's happiness. The dining room is already filling with weekend guests. When Elena emerges with a stack of pancakes, she slides them onto the buffet and begins refiling coffee cups. A few minutes later, a burst of high-pitched laughter cuts through the dining room. Meg's trademark. I'm flirting laugh. Eleanor turns and sees her friend at the reception desk, talking to a tall man with his back to the dining room. Even from behind, there's something striking about him. Broad shoulders beneath an expensive suit. Dark hair neatly trimmed at the nape of his neck. Something in the way he carries himself. The confident stance, a slight tilt of his head as he listens to Meg, draws Eleanor's attention like a magnet. There's something familiar in that posture, something that makes Eleanor's heart skip a beat. Before her brain can process why, she takes a step closer, coffee pot still in hand. The man shifts his weight, one hand reaching out to accept a pen from Meg. Long fingers, elegant yet strong. Coffee pot nearly slips from Eleanor's suddenly numb fingers. The clatter as she sets it down to hard on a nearby table. Sounds distant, muffled, as if she's underwater. No, it can't be. Quiet. As the man half turns to sign. Yeah. Whatever paper Meg has given him. Eleanor sees his profile, and the world drops away completely. Those hands. She knows those hands. Remembers precisely how they felt. Tracing patterns on her skin. Gentle yet possessive. She takes a sharp intake of breath, her eyes traveling to the sharp line of his jaw, the curve of his mouth. She remembers how that jaw feels against her lips. Her heart hammers so violently, she can feel it in her throat. The man's head snaps to her, and their eyes lock. Amber eyes. His eyes. The eyes that once looked at her, like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. To his credit, those eyes only briefly widen, before he schools his expression, but Eleanor sees the tension that immediately stiffens his shoulders. How dare you, she thinks. Why would you be tense? You're the one that left. She walks closer, ears buzzing, and hears herself ask, "May I help you?" She honestly doesn't know how she manages to form words. Because this standing before her for the first time in 10 years is Mason Keen, the love of her life, or so she thought. Or so she thought. Because while she was falling madly in love, his family was arranging his betrothal, apparently, and while Eleanor was imagining their future together, they already had a future planned out. One that did not include her. Eleanor, Meg says brightly. Mr. Keen here wants to book a room. Her friend looks excited and flustered, which makes Eleanor want to grind her teeth. I'm afraid we're fully booked, she says coolly. No, we're not, Meg says, confusion crossing her face. Mason just stares at Eleanor, brows slightly furrowed. He hasn't said a thing. Eleanor realizes. Not a single thing. His eyes, she thought she remembered their color well, but her memory hadn't done them justice. And she hates it. How long will you be staying, sir? Meg asks, batting her eyelashes. Her flirting is so obvious it's embarrassing. He's taken. Eleanor wants to scream. Married, not interested, not worth your time. Certainly not worth the heartbreak. It's a lie, though, and she knows it. Even if she'd known how it would end, with her heart shattered into a million pieces. He thinks she would do it again. Also, that Mason would kiss her once more. Sir? Meg insists. Do you know how long? Indefinitely. Mason interrupts, never taking his eyes off Eleanor. Meg squeals excitedly, and suddenly it's too much. Eleanor can't take any more. She can't, because Mason left her. Left what barely remained of Eleanor. After him. And she went and threw herself into the arms of the first cute guy. Who would have her, to forget him, and got pregnant. And then got left again. I could show you around if you'd like. Meg is saying, still whirling her hair. Oh, for crying out loud. Eleanor groans, turning to her. Give it a rest, won't you? He's married. There's an awkward silence. Elena sees red, because she's not the one being awkward here. Meg is flirting shamelessly with yet another unavailable man, who so happens to be her ex. While said ex is saying nonsense about wanting to book a room in her inn, when he should know, there's not a world where that is appropriate, at least not where Elena is concerned. Look, sir, are you single? She asks. Mason blinks, looking properly startled. I beg your pardon? Yeah, see, my friend here. Elena jerks a thumb toward Meg. She always goes for the married ones. So, can you please tell her you're married so we can all move on? Mason's mouth opens and closes once, before he finds words. I'm not, he says eventually, cautiously. Elena sighs. What? Still engaged? She insists. Well, I'm. Mason begins. See? Elena says, turning to Meg triumphantly. Widowed. Mason concludes. And Elena freezes, her victory evaporating into thin air. His wife is dead. But his wife died, and he didn't think to tell her. At least come back? No, of course not. It was never about that other girl anyway, was it? Sorry for your loss, she mutters, then moves away abruptly to return to the kitchen. Mason moves so swiftly she doesn't see it. He always used to do that. 1 second he'd be this awfully polite, affable, sunny person, and the next, his fingers grasp her arm, spinning her back toward him. Wait, Elena, he tries. And for the first time since he came here, he looks affected, at least. By what? Elena has no idea. Surely not by her. Let go of me, she says. Mason looks like he isn't going to. There are specks of gold in his irises. Just like she remembers, flickering to life when he's emotional. I said, let go of me, Mason. Elena snaps. He does slowly, reluctantly. I apologize, he murmurs, making Elena snort. For what? She challenges. And when Mason looks startled and as sad as she feels, she grins bitterly and says, yeah, I thought so, and walks away. Chapter 4. I'm going crazy in here. Ava groans, icing the confines of Ethan's bedroom. My wolf is about to lose it. Ethan looks up from his comic book. We could go to the park, and then maybe the mall. Mom gave me $5. He reaches under his bed and pulls out his backpack. I can bring some clothes for you two. Ava's face lights up. Really? Sure, it's Saturday. We can be out all day if we want. Ethan stuffs a pair of jeans and a smaller t-shirt into his backpack. Ava rushes to the window, peering out eagerly at the sunny day. And then she goes still. Something wrong? Ethan joins her at the window. Ava points to a tall man in dark jeans and an expensive-looking sweater. Walking the grounds behind the inn. Probably a guest. Ethan tells her. He's not a guest. Ava whispers. He's my alpha. What? Ethan leans closer to the glass, his heart beating faster. You mean, that's your dad? Ava nods, shrinking back from the window. He must have tracked me here. Her voice drops, even lower. If he looks up right now, he might sense us watching. Ethan quickly pulls back from the window, his pulse pounding in his ears. Can he break down doors or walls? If he wanted to, Ava says simply, eyes wide and serious. Ethan watches the man outside Ava's father. More closely, there's something about the intensity in his search that makes Ethan's chest ache. But now with fear. His own father left before he was even born. Couldn't even care enough to send a birthday card ever. Yet Ava's dad is here, searching for her. Maybe you should go to him. Ethan's adjusts hesitantly. He must be worried about you. Ava's eyes flash with something between fear and defiance. You don't understand what alphas are like when they're angry. When I ran away, I broke pack law. In the old days, wolves were banished for less. But He's your dad? Ethan protests. He's the alpha first, dad second. Ava says, bitterly. Always has been. She peeks out the window again, then quickly ducks down. Get down! He's coming this way! They scramble back from the glass. Ethan's mind races with comic book scenarios of walls being smashed and doors being ripped from hinges. What do we do if he's looking for you? I don't think we can go outside. Ava's face falls and hardens with determination. We just need to be extra careful. If he tries to take me by force, tell everyone I'm your wolf. He won't want to make a scene. He's obsessed with keeping our existence secret from humans. Really? Ethan asks. Trust me, my father is all about appearances. Okay. Ethan swallows hard. You should probably be things when we go out. Avon odds and shifts smoothly into wolf form. The sandy-colored pup looks up at Ethan expectantly. Let's go. Ethan grabs the leash, his backpack, and takes a deep breath. Stay close to me. They head downstairs, Ethan trying his best to look casual. The inn is busy with Saturday guests, checking in on doubt, which works to their advantage. More people means more distractions and possible witnesses. At the bottom of the stairs, Ethan peeks around the corner. The lobby is clear, but he can see Meg at the front desk, chatting with a couple. His mom is nowhere in sight. Come on, Ethan whispers, tugging gently on Ava's leash. They make it to the back hallway. That leads to the garden door. Just as Ethan reaches for the handle, Ava freezes, hackles rising. Ethan follows her gaze through the window. Ava's father is right outside, examining something on the ground. They back away from the door, Ava tugging Ethan toward the laundry room. Good idea, Ethan whispers, following her lead. The laundry room has a side door that guests never use. Through its window, they can see Ava's father has moved to the front of the inn. Still searching. Now's our chance, Ethan whispers, easing open the side door. They slip outside. Sticking close to the building's shadow, Ethan leads Ava along the perimeter, heading for the tree line that borders the property. They're almost there, when Ethan hears a deep voice behind them. Excuse me. Ethan freezes, then slowly turns. Ava's father stands 20 feet away, his amber eyes fixed on Ava. That's an unusual dog you have there, the man says, his voice casual but his stance tense. Ethan's now goes dry. His a husky mix, he manages. The man takes a step closer. Ava presses against Ethan's leg, trembling slightly. Don't come any closer. Ethan blurts out, "Ooh, she's scared of strangers?" The man's eyes narrow, studying Ava intently. What's her name? He asks. Fangs, Ethan answers, remembering Ava's instructions. To act like she belongs to him. The man is close enough now that Ethan can see the intensity in his eyes. He reaches a hand toward Ava, who backs away, growling softly. And suddenly this very dangerous man looks, well, sad? See? Scared of strangers. Ethan repeats, his voice cracking. His legs feel like jelly, and sweat beads on his forehead. Ava's growl deepens, a sound no dog would make, and Ethan swears the man growls at her right back. Ava, he says quietly, his voice deep and certain. Come here. Ethan feels his stomach drop to his shoes. Her name is Fangs. He defends, his voice coming out higher than intended. And she's my pet. Ethan's never been so terrified in his life. Not even when Tommy Wilson and his friends cornered him behind the school. But he can't and on Ava. Then, like an answer to a prayer, he spots his mom on the back porch, up on a ladder trying to change a light bulb, except the ladder wobbles precariously beneath her. Mom, Ethan calls out, just as the ladder tips. Ava's father turns, sees Elena falling, and in a blur of movement, that no human could possibly match. He's at the porch, catching her before she hits the ground. Ethan gasps and he and Ava bolt for the trees. They sprint with the desperate energy of prey animals. Chapter 5. Just a little more, Elena mutters, stretching precariously from the top of the ladder. The back porch light has been flickering for days, driving her crazy during the evening wine hour. When guests like to sit outside, 1 more inch, and she can reach the socket. The ladder wobbles beneath her, but Elena ignores it. The light bulb almost within her grasp. Mom! Elena glances over. Ethan is at the edge of the yard with Fangs and Mason. For a heartbeat, Elena forgets she's balanced on a metal death trap. 3 feet off the ground, forgets everything. Except the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. Anger surges through her at the memory. And Elena makes such a quick movement. The ladder shifts, the whirl tilting, as her feet lose contact with the metal rung. And then she's falling, a short yelp escaping her throat, as she braces for impact. It never comes. Instead, strong arms catch her, cradling her body against a solid chest. What the? Elena struggles to process what just happened. She blinks, disoriented, and finds herself looking up into Amber eyes. Mason's eyes. What the hell? Elena breathes. Are you hurt? Mason asks. His voice pitched low, intimate in a way that makes her skin prickle. Elena struggles to find her bearings. Where'd it come from? The yard, Mason says simply. Elena looks over his shoulder, at the spot where he'd been standing with Ethan. Just seconds ago. But you were all the way over there, she says, pointing. She becomes suddenly aware that she's still in his arms. One of his hands warm against her back, the other under her knees. And well, the last time he held her this way was the weekend. They'd driven to the coast. When he'd carried her into the ocean, despite her squealing protests. You can put me down now, she points out, a flush creeping up her neck despite herself. Mason carefully sets her on her feet, but his hands linger at her waist a moment too long, as if he's reluctant to break contact. Are you hurt? He asks again. Just my pride, Elena says, willing her heartbeat to slow down. Where did Ethan go? He ran off with his dog when you fell. Elena scoffs at that. So much for checking up on her kid. So ungrateful, she thinks, just as the memory of Ethan's tense face resurfaces. Then, Elena's mama bear instincts flare. Why were you talking to my son? She snaps, staring Mason in the eye, trying not to notice how he towers over her. Your son? Mason asks, as an emotion flicks briefly across his face. Someone else might not have noticed, let alone identified it. Someone else isn't Elena. So, relax, he isn't yours. She scowls, all the more when Mason visibly relaxes at that. And, since he isn't, may I ask what you wanted with him? Mason stiffens slightly. I apologize if I overstepped. I was asking about his pet. He says carefully. He's a brave boy. Elena raises an eyebrow. She's been told Ethan is overly cautious. Too many times to count. Very mature for his age. On numerous occasions, but brave. Bravery had never come up. He defended it quite fiercely. Mason continues. That takes courage. He did? Elena asks. Very much so, you should be proud. He stood his ground quite admirably. A spark of pride warms Elena's chest, and then Mason's words register. Wait a minute. Stood his ground? Elena repeats, suspicion blooming. Why would he need to stand his ground? Oh, he looks briefly uncomfortable at that. Well, I thought his dog was my daughter's. Excuse me? Elena blinks. I mean, Mason runs a hand through his dark hair. I thought it was my daughter's dog. Elena stares at him. So, Mason has a daughter who lost her mother. Apparently, Elena's anger at Mason is overpowered by empathy for the poor kid. Well, it's not, Elena says, because That's not a dog, that's a wolf. You don't say, Mason quips, though he doesn't look surprised. He'd probably notice that too then. Elena thinks. Which probably explains why he's looking at her like that. Because he too, like Meg, thinks she shouldn't let her son own a pet wolf. Which, fine, valid concern, pet. Also none of Mason's business. The wolf is very well behaved. If you must know, Elena defends, crossing her arms. She is? Mason asks, looking startled before clearing his throat. I mean, really? Elena narrows her eyes at him. Hey, you're not gonna call animal control on my kid, are you? Because I'll have you know. No. Mason raises his hands in appeasement. I really did just confuse the wolf with my daughter's pet, that's all. Something flicks in Mason's eye. Spain, quickly masked. Which is probably why Elena asks her next question. Where is your daughter then? Did you leave her alone with the clan? Mason flinches at the term. My family is not a clan, Elena. Really? Because from the outside, it sure looked like one. Elena counters. She remembers how they'd lived, clustered together on that massive property, how they'd homeschooled. The children kept to themselves, appeared in town only in groups. You were always together, never letting outsiders in, controlling who everyone talked to, who they married. Her voice catches on the last word. You don't know what you're talking about. Mason protests. Of course I do. Elena snaps. Your father decided who you could be with, and you just went along with it. Mason's face closes off. I apologize, he says. For what? Exactly? Elena challenges. Unable to stop herself, showing up at my inn after 10 years like it's nothing? Or for all of it. Mason interrupts quietly. Elena looks away. So, is your daughter still there, being groomed for whatever future your father has planned for her? Mason's jaw tightens. My father is gone. I led the family now. This catches Elena off guard. Old man Keene had seemed eternal, his authority absolute. She remembers how Mason had spoken of him, with reverence and fear in equal measure. Gone? She repeats, incredulous. After what happened with my brother, Mason says, his voice carefully controlled. What happened to Elliot? Elena asks, her anger momentarily forgotten. Mason's older brother, golden boy, heir apparent, the one who could do no wrong in their father's eyes. Mason looks away. He's gone too. The pain in his voice is real, and Elena feels a pang of sympathy despite herself. Whatever happened, it clearly haunts him. And to answer your original question, no, Mason continues. My daughter isn't with the family she ran away. Wait, what? Oh my God, Elena whispers, genuine concern replacing her suspicion. Is that why you're here? Are you looking for her? Mason nods, his face unreadable. She's not in danger, but he trails off, looking toward the woods where Ethan disappeared. She doesn't want to come home. The pain in his voice is unmistakable, and Elena feels a surge of sympathy. I'm so sorry, she tells him. That must be awful. I believe I failed her as a father, Ethan says quietly. We all make mistakes. Elena leans against the porch railing. My kid's having a rough time since we moved here. No friends. Quiet all the time. She shakes her head. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Uprooting him for this inn. You did what you thought was best, I'm sure. Mason says simply. Did I? Or did I do what I wanted and tell myself it was for him too? Elena sighs. You said Ethan was brave. I worry he's too anxious, too careful. His father left before he was born. And I wonder if that's why his father left? Mason interrupts, voice sharp. Yeah, we were 19. classic story. Boy knocks up girlfriend, boy runs for the hills. He abandoned his child. Something dangerous flashes in Mason's eyes. He abandoned you. He wasn't the first to do so, was he? Elena snaps. Mason flinches as if she'd slapped him. That was different. Was it? Elena challenges. She crosses her arms. At least Ethan's father was honest about not wanting responsibility. I never lied about wanting you, Mason says. Surely you know that. He steps closer. Close enough that she can see the individual. Flecks of gold in his eyes. Elena, he begins, his voice urgent. Stop it, she warns. Whatever you're about to say, don't. For a moment, she thinks he'll ignore her, push forward with whatever confession or explanation he wants to offer. The old Mason might have. But this Mason, older, carrying new burdens, simply nods and steps back. I should get back to work. Elena sighs. That light still needs fixing. Allow me, Mason offers. Already moving toward the ladder. Elena watches as he climbs with easy precision, changing the bulb in seconds. A familiar way. He moves. Efficient and graceful, sends an unwelcome pang through her chest. Then he hands her the old bulb. Their fingers brush. Thank you, she says stiffly, taking a small step back. Mason nods, his eyes never leaving hers. Elena, he turns away, unable to bear whatever he might say next. The past is the past. He has an inn to run, a son to raise, a life that doesn't have room for reopening old wounds. Chapter 6. Ethan watches. Ava's face light up as they wander through the town park, her eyes wide with wonder at everything. From the ice cream truck to the playground equipment. After their narrow escape from Ava's father, they'd spent the day exploring. Ava in human form wearing Ethan's extra clothes, her red hair tucked under his baseball cap. We don't have anything like this in Pack territory. She points excitedly at the colorful playground. You've never been on a swing? Ethan asks. Incredulous. No. Dad says it's too dangerous to play with human children. Ethan grabs Ava's hand. Come on. After the swings, Ethan introduces Ava to his favorite spot. A small pond where paper boats can be sailed. I've got just enough money left for the boat guy, Ethan says, pulling his last dollar from his pocket. Ava watches, fascinated, as the vendor hands them to small boats. They watch their tiny vessels drift across the pond, racing each other to the other side. This is way better than training. Ava sighs happily. What kind of training do you do? Ethan asks, skipping a stone across the water. Ava shrugs. Mostly shifting, untracking, and fighting. Fighting? Ethan's eyes widen. Yes, for when I'm older. Ava explains. Future alphas have to be the strongest, fastest, and toughest. All I ever do is train. I never get to just. She gestures around the park. Have fun. Maybe ask your dad for a day off. Ava laughs. You don't tell an alpha what to do, even if he's your dad. They're quiet for a moment, watching their paper boats reach the other side of the pond. We should head back, Ethan says finally, noticing the lengthening shadows. Mom will be worried. When they reach the inn, Ava shifts back to wolf form behind some bushes, and they enter through the laundry room door as before. The inn seems quiet. Most guests must be out for dinner. They climb the stairs to the apartment, finding the door unlocked. Inside, Ethan's mom is seated at her small easel, in the corner of the living room, paintbrush in hand, completely absorbed in her work. Hey, kiddo, have fun? Ava in wolf form freezes mid-step, staring at Elena's painting, a landscape of the forest behind the inn. The colors vibrant and bold. I ordered pizza for dinner, Elena says. Should be here in 20 minutes. I thought we could watch a movie together. Awesome, Ethan exclaims. An hour later, they're sprawled on the couch, empty pizza box on the coffee table. watching an animated movie. Ava's wolf eyes never leave the screen. Halfway through the movie, the phone rings. Mrs. Henderson's shower out again. Elena says, "I'll be right back." After she leaves, Ava shifts back to human form, grabbing Ethan's blanket to wrap around herself. "Your mom is so cool," Ava whispers, her eyes bright with excitement. She makes things with her hands, like actual beautiful things. Ethan shrugs. "She's always painted. She wanted to go to art school. Then she had me instead." "Can I see more of her paintings?" Ava asks eagerly. "I guess," Ethan says, pausing the movie. She has a little studio in the spare room." He leads Ava to the smallest bedroom in the apartment, which Elena has converted into an art space. Easels stand by the window, and canvases lean against the walls. Eva spins in a slow circle, taking it all in. She moves from canvas to canvas, touching the edges gently. "What's in there?" Ava asks, pointing to a large portfolio leaning against the wall. "I don't know," Ethan admits. "Mom keeps her old stuff in there, I think." Naturally, this makes Ava curious, and she swiftly pulls the portfolio out. "Ava," Ethan groans nervously. "What?" "We're just appreciating your mom's art." Ava insists, already flipping through the papers. First few sketches are of landscapes, buildings, and occasionally Ethan as a younger child. But then Ava gasps, holding up a portrait, and Ethan's jaw drops. It's a detailed pencil drawing of a man that looks just like my dad. "That's totally my dad," Ava exclaims. I quickly discover the portfolio contains at least a dozen drawings of Ava's dad. Some quick sketches, others detailed portraits. In one, he's laughing, his head thrown back. In another, he's reading a book, his expression serene. "I don't understand," Ethan says, confused. "Why would Mom have all these drawings of your dad?" "Because Ethan," Ava whispers. "Or she's totally crushing on him." "What? No way," Ethan protests. "Yes way," Ava says with authority. Ethan studies the drawing. "Are you sure that's your dad, though?" Ethan points out. "He looks much younger." "It's definitely him," Ava insists. "Maybe they'd met before," she gasps. "Oh my God. Ethan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "Heck, this is really awkward." Ava shakes her head in disappointment. "Oh, Ethan, my poor, simple human friend." She sighs. "No, I'm thinking if your mom started dating my dad." "Why would they do that?" Ethan interrupts. "I don't know adult reasons." Ava shrugs. "The point is, if they dated, my dad would let us hang out." Ethan considers this. "Well, I guess that's true, but..." And Ava continues excitedly, "Your mom is so much cooler than all the women his council wants him to remarry." "What's a council?" Ethan asks. "Old dudes who think they can tell my dad what's best." Ava explains. "They think what's best is for my dad to produce a second heir. Because my mom died when I was a baby." Her face briefly falls at that. "Oh, him so sorry," Ethan says softly. Ava shrugs. "It's fine. I don't remember her," she murmurs before lighting up again. "But if I'm going to get a new mom, they'd like her to be cool. And your mom is so cool, Ethan." "She's the coolest mom," Ethan agrees. "She lets me stay up late when I'm reading a good book. And she curses a lot." Ava nods enthusiastically. "We need to get her together with my dad." "I don't know," Ethan says. "No offense, but your old man's really scary." "He's not so bad," Ava defends. "He makes me enchiladas." "I love enchiladas," Ethan exclaims. "See? It's perfect. You get a new dad, I get a new mom, and we all get enchiladas." Ethan grins despite himself. "How would we do it?" he asks. Mom doesn't seem to like him, and trust me, she can hold a grudge forever. She still won't eat at Denny's because they messed up her order 3 years ago. We just need to get them alone together, in a lot of romantic situations. What kind of romantic situations? I don't know, being trapped in an elevator. Ava suggests excitedly. Ian doesn't have an elevator. Ethan points out. Okay, well, what about if they're running from danger? And have to hide in a really small closet? What danger would they be running from? How about a bear? There aren't any bears around here. Ava. I could pretend to be a bear. Ethan just stares at her. Okay, Ivy got it, Ava says, snapping her fingers. What if you pretend to have lost something in the woods, and then we send my dad to help your mom find it? That will never. Ethan makes a pause. Actually, you know what? That might work, he admits. Ava grins mischievously, her enthusiasm infectious. Chapter 7. Elena sweeps her flashlight across the forest floor, muttering curses under her breath. The sun has nearly disappeared behind the trees, casting long shadows that make her search even more difficult. His father's compass, she groans, pushing aside fallen branches. And you just happen to have it out here in the woods, Ethan? Really? The compass is the only thing Ethan has from the father. He's never met a man who'd only left a small box of belongings behind. When he'd vanished from their lives, Eleanor had kept the compass for Ethan, and when her son had burst into the kitchen an hour ago, eyes wide with panic, babbling about losing the compass. While exploring the woods with Fangs, Eleanor hadn't hesitated, even if it meant postponing dinner preparations for the guests and asking Meg to cover. Some things were more important. Now, picking her way through the underbrush. Eleanor thinks she probably should have thought this through. Or stupid trees all looking the same. She grumbles, turning in a slow circle. A twig snaps behind her, and Diana whirls around, heart leaping to her throat. Hello? She calls, flashlight beam cutting through the growing darkness. A figure emerges from between the trees, and Eleanor's grip tightens on the flashlight, ready to use it as a weapon if necessary. You shouldn't be out here alone, a familiar deep voice says. Eleanor's shoulders sagged, relief and irritation flooding her in equal measure. I'm not alone now, am I? He quips sarcastically. Mason steps fully into the circle of her flashlight beam. What are you doing out here? Eleanor demands. Ran into your son downstairs. He mentioned you disappearing into the woods. So, you thought you'd follow me? Elena retorts, crossing her arms. Mason's lips twitch, almost a smile. I thought you might need help. Well, I don't, Elena snaps. Elena, Mason says softly. She sighs, turns to face him, flashlight pointed slightly down to avoid blinding him. Fine, she concedes. Only because I really need to find this compass. For Ethan, Mason nods, already scanning the forest floor with a focus. That reminds Elena of how he used to approach problems. Methodical, intent, unstoppable once he set his mind to something. This way, he says, starting off confidently to the right. Did you just choose at random? Elena challenges, but follows anyway. I know these woods, he replies simply. They walk in silence for several minutes, Elena struggling occasionally over fallen logs and uneven ground. Mason moves with an easy grace that irritates her. He's always been unnaturally sure-footed. They reach the oak tree, its massive trunk split by an old lightning strike. That has left a jagged, black scar down one side. You know, he says, after a long silence, I almost didn't recognize you when I first checked in. Eleanor scoffs. Well, you haven't changed at all. Ugh. Still the same expensive clothes. Same perfect posture. Same. She trails off, not wanting to finish the thought. Same power that radiates from him. Same intensity that both thrilled and frightened her. Same what? He prompts. Same ability to show up where you're not wanted. She finishes. Mason's quiet laugh surprises her. I seem to recall you once saying, that was one of my better qualities. The memory hits Elena with unexpected force. A rainy afternoon, when she'd stormed out after an argument with her roommate, wandering aimlessly until she found herself lost in an unfamiliar part of the city. Somehow, impossibly, Mason had appeared, as if summoned by her distress. That was different, Elena says. Oh, the edge has left her voice. Mason opens his mouth as if to say more, but then his attention shifts to something on the ground. He kneels, brushing aside some leaves, and when he stands, he's holding a small brass compass. Found it, he says simply, extending his hand. Elena takes the compass, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. Thank you, she says, tucking it safely in her pocket. Ethan will be relieved, she thinks, but doesn't say. Sometimes he stares at this compass, like his father's going to jump out of it. Like somehow, if he holds on to it, his father will return. That breaks Elena's heart. Tell me about your son, Mason says quietly, as they begin walking back toward the inn. Now visible through the trees in the distance, Elena glances at him, surprised by the request. What would you like to know? Just, what's he like? Mason looks away. Ooh. Does he always put too much jam on his toast? Is he afraid of clowns too? Elena opens her mouth to remind Mason she is not, in fact, afraid of clowns. But, he continues, does he sing off-key? And just so happened to blurt out. Whatever thought goes through his head, he's actually quite the opposite. Eleanor rolls her eyes. Patient thinks before he acts. Ethan weighs every possibility before making a decision. She gives Mason a pointed look. You always knew what you wanted, he observes. Never hesitated to go after it. They walk a few steps in silence before Elena asks, and what about your daughter? Does she smile at strangers and turn heads? Without realizing? Does she make you feel special, then disappear on you? Something flickers across Mason's face. Ava is fierce, he murmurs. Independent questions everything I say. Her smile. She has this way of looking at you, like she's sizing you up, deciding if you're worth her time. Also nothing like her parent then. Elena eases gently. Pace. Unless. Or. Sound. That sends an unexpected shiver down Elena's spine. She's braver than I ever was, he murmurs. Follows her heart without hesitation. Elena hears the unspoken words beneath his description. That his daughter is brave in ways he wasn't. Ways that might have changed everything. You've always been good at that, Elena. Mason's eyes hold hers. Living life your way. Consequences be damned. They walk the rest of the way in silence. It's a different quality of silence than before. Less tense. More thoughtful. As they approach the inn's back door, the yellow light from the kitchen spills out onto the porch steps. Elena pauses, turning to face Mason. Thank you, she says, meeting his eyes, for helping me find the compass. It belonged to Ethan's dad. It means a lot to him. Mason steps closer, just a fraction. Had enough that Elena can feel the warmth radiating from him. I'm glad I could help. The moonlight catches in his amber eyes, and Elena is suddenly, vividly reminded of another night, years ago, when they'd stood beneath a different moon. The memory hits her with unexpected force, his hands cradling her face, and his whispered confession that he'd never felt this way about anyone before. Elena, Mason says softly, and her name on his lips still sounds like a prayer. She knows she should step back, should go inside, should remember all the reasons why. This is a terrible idea, but her body betrays her, swaying slightly toward him. Mason's hand rises to her cheek, his touch feather-light, as if he's afraid she might disappear. His eyes search hers, where a sting, a question she's not sure she knows how to answer. For one suspended moment, she's certain he's going to kiss her. Part of her apart she thought she'd buried years ago, aches for it with startling intensity. Then something shifts in his expression, a flash of what looks like fear, and Mason pulls back abruptly, his hand falling away from her face. "I'm sorry," he says, his voice strained. The sudden withdrawal feels like a physical slap. He tries into her cheeks. Of course he wouldn't kiss her. He made his choice years ago. Mason's expression is pained. "It's not what you think, Elena. There are reasons. There always are with you," Elena mutters. "Always secrets. Always something holding you back." "Elena." "Good night, Mason," she says firmly, stepping into the warm light of the inn. Before he can say anything else, before she can do something even more foolish. After all these years? After everything that's happened, how can he still affect her this way? How can she still be so stupid? As she closes the door behind her, Helena leans against it for a moment, the compass clutched tightly in her hand, feeling a mix of embarrassment and another emotion she won't name for what it is. Longing. Chapter 8. They almost kissed, Ava whispers excitedly, pacing back and forth across Ethan's bedroom. She's in human form, wearing one of his t-shirts as a nightgown, her red hair wild around her face. "I saw them through the window." Ethan's. It's cross-legged on his bed, absently spinning the compass between his fingers. "They didn't actually kiss," he points out. "Your dad backed away." Ava waves her hand dismissively. Details the point is, they wanted to. "Did you see your mom's face when she came inside?" Ethan had noticed. His mom had tried to act normal, but her eyes had that distant look she got when she was upset about something. "Your plan worked pretty well," Ethan admits. "The compass was a good idea. Told you." Ava plops down beside him, bouncing on the mattress. We need to do more." "They're fighting it." "Fighting what?" Ava rolls her eyes dramatically. "Her feelings, dummy. Grown-ups do that. They like to make everything complicated." "So, what do we do now?" Ethan asks. "We need to be sneak-IER," Ava decides. More strategic, as Ava scribbles down ideas. Ethan feels a flutter of hope in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, this crazy plan could work. Maybe he could finally have a dad who wouldn't leave, and Dava could have a mom who'd let her just be a kid. Sometimes. Chapter 9. The days at Pine Haven Inn shift into a rhythm that Elena doesn't recognize, and that unnerves her more than she'd ever admit, because Mason Keen is everywhere. When the ancient coffee maker sputters its final breath, on a busy Saturday morning, Mason appears like summoned magic, toolbox in hand and sleeves rolled up. "You always did break things when you were stressed," he says with a crooked grin, kneeling beside the counter. "I'm not stressed." Helena lies, taking the screwdriver he offers. She watches him work, aft hands moving with quiet confidence, and her mind betrays her. Flashing images of those same hands, splayed across her skin, tugging at her hips, threading through her hair, holding her still while he kissed her, until she forgot her name. She exhales sickly, forcing herself to look away. When the spring rain comes, Elena finds herself under the small garden gazebo, the storm turning the world around them into a blurred watercolor of silver sheets, dripping leaves, and of course Mason is there too. He stands close enough that she can feel the heat of his body, even in the chill air, but not quite touching. "Not yet. Looks like we're stuck," he says, eyes on the storm. She wraps her arms around herself. Will dry? Mason glances down at her. Remember the storm in Portland? Her stomach twists. She does too well, running through the city, soaked and laughing, ducking into that bookshop to escape the rain. Mason pinning her against a wall of antique maps, kissing her senseless, before dragging her to the floor. Behind a stack of biographies, poetry forgotten, hands everywhere. No, she says too quickly. His gaze sharpens. Liar. Raindrops hit the roof like drum beats. She can feel every tick of the clock in her spine. 23 agonizing minutes of silence stretch between them. Soaked in memory, tension, and everything they're not saying. The water heater dies on Tuesday evening. Because of course it does. Elena stands in the basement, arms crossed, paying the massive tank, like she could will it back to life. She doesn't hear the footsteps until they're already halfway down the stairs. Let me guess, she mutters. They just happen to be nearby. Mason shrugs, setting down a flashlight and a wrench. Urine has terrible luck. Fortunately, them extremely handy, and it's not just broken appliances. Mason appears on her morning walks, falling into step beside her without warning. When the firewood delivery arrives, he's already unloading the logs, sleeves pushed up, shirt clinging to his back. She hates how beautiful he is, hates how natural it feels to see him here. It's helping her, smiling like he belongs, and she really hates how her hands ache to touch him. One evening she finds him in the library, humming through a worn book of poetry. Her breath catches. Still reading Blake? Their eyes meet. Silence stretches taut as a drawn bowstring. She remembers reading to him in bed, naked under the covers, his fingers tracing lines over her stomach. While she whispered stanzas into the dark, Blake has always been her favorite poet. And still, things keep happening. Ethan, somehow, is thriving. He seems happier, lighter, laughing more, especially when Mason's daughter, Fangs, is around. One night, Elena hears him at his door. Of course she'd want extra pepperoni, he says, as if responding to someone. Mom always forgets. There's a beat of silence. Then, no, I didn't tell him, should I? Elena frowns, his tone is conspiratorial, animated. She presses an ear to the door. No response, just his voice, and the soft shuffle of paws on the floor. Later, she brings it up to Meg. Kids and their pets. Meg says with a shrug, "But can't we talk about how Mr. Broody Wolf can't stop looking at you? He practically inhaled you during breakfast." "He did not," Elena says, turning away to hide the flush creeping up her neck. "Oh, honey," Meg grins. "The tension between you two is so thick, I could spread it on toast." Elena mutters something obscene and goes back to her paperwork. That evening, she's on the back porch again, painting the sunset. Her thoughts aren't even her thoughts a mess. The air shifts. She doesn't need to turn. She knows it's him. I still paint, Mason says, voice warm against her ear. Some habits don't die. He stands behind her now, close to close. "It's beautiful," he murmurs. Her hand tightens on the edge of the easel. His nearness is dizzying. Her body remembers too much. The press of him, the taste, the way he used to whisper her name before he could say anything else. Meg's voice cuts through the moment. "Elena, phone call Mrs. Henderson." She walks away before she changes her mind, but the ache lingers. The next morning, she's cleaning the breakfast room when Mason appears with something clutched in his hand. Her stomach drops. The folder. Hers. Catch folder. For one she keeps buried under journals and tax forms. In the bottom drawer of her art desk. The one filled with a younger Mason. Shirtless. Asleep. Laughing. The version of him she never really let go. "I found these in my room," he says. Voice unreadable. Her blood runs cold. "You weren't supposed to see those. I didn't think you still had them." He holds out a drawing. This one, me on the balcony, reading. Elena snatches the folder from his hand. They're private. You kept them. It doesn't mean anything. It does. His voice is quiet, steady. Why did you make so many portraits of me if... Oh? For crying out loud, Mason? Elena snaps. Like you needed any more proof of how much I loved you. Wasn't it obvious? I loved you so much it scared me. And then you left. Mason steps closer. What about now? He asks. Her mouth opens. But nothing comes out. How do you feel now? He presses. Her hands clench around the folder. Her heart thundering. What does it matter? She whispers. He lifts a hand, caressing her cheek with aching gentleness. It matters to me. Then he kisses her. No warning. No hesitation. It's 10 years of longing crashing into one breathless, desperate moment. His mouth claims hers, and she shatters. She drops the folder. Pages scatter. Her hands bury themselves in his shirt, his hair. His arms wrap around her. Like they'll never let go again. She arches into him, gasping as his lips trail from her mouth to her jaw. Then back again. It's reckless, messy, unforgivable. It's everything she's missed. Everything she still wants. And it's only the beginning. Chapter 10. They kissed. Ava whispers fiercely, pouncing on Ethan's bed in human form. They actually kissed in the breakfast room. Ethan looks up from his comic book, eyes wide. How do you know? Did you see them? No. But I could smell it on my dad when he came back to his room. Ava taps her nose proudly. Shifter's senses. Remember? He smelled like your mom's perfume and happiness. Happiness has a smell? Ethan asks, amazed. Duh. Ava rolls her eyes. Everything has a smell. And my dad was practically covered in. I just kissed someone I really like scent. Ethan crunches his nose. Gross, but also awesome. Our plan worked. They high-fives, grinning at each other like co-conspirators. Operation Parent Trap was a total success, Ava declares. The drawings were genius. I still can't believe we did that. Ethan admits. Mom would kill me if she knew I went through her private stuff. But she won't kill you, Ava points out. Because now she's too busy kissing my dad. They dissolve into giggles, quickly muffling the sound with pillows. Over the next few days, Ethan and Ava watch with growing amusement as their parents attempt and fail to be discreet. From the safety of the hallway, they observe Elena and Mason accidentally brushing hands while passing coffee. In the breakfast room, they exchange knowing glances. When both adults make excuses to check the storage closet at the same time, they think they're being so sneaky. Ava whispers as they peek around the corner, watching Mason lean close to whisper something in Elena's ear. That makes her blush. Mom literally wore lipstick to take out the trash. Yesterday, Ethan snickers. The trash because your dad was out chopping wood. My dad changed his shirt 3 times before dinner. Ava counters. I've never seen him care about clothes before. They retreat to Ethan's room, collapsing in fits of laughter. It's kind of weird, though, Ethan admits once they've calmed down. Seeing my mom all giggly. I know, Ava nods solemnly. My dad actually smiled at breakfast with teeth showing. The pack would never believe it. Ethan fiddles with his comic, a thought occurring to him. What happens when your dad eventually goes back to your pack? Will you go with him? Ava's smile fades. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. A silence falls between them. The reality of their situation, suddenly intruding on their triumph. Maybe they'll fall in love for real. Ethan suggests hopefully, and then we could all stay together. Ava brightens. My dad might even thank me, instead of grounding me for running away. You think? Well, probably not. Ava concedes, but he might ground me for less time. Besides, I found him a mate that's like super important for an alpha. And I found my mom someone who makes her happy. Ethan adds, someone who's not going to leave. Ava nods, but then tilts her head. Her attention caught by something. Ethan, your glasses. Ethan's hand flies up to the frames. The right side is held together with clear tape. What about them? They're broken. Ava scoots closer on the bed again. That's the second time this week. It's nothing, Ethan mumbles, suddenly very interested in his comic book. Has got bumped in gym class. Ava's eyes narrow. You're lying. I can smell it. That's not fair. Ethan protests. You can't use shifter powers to catch me in lies. Yes, I can, Ava insists, especially when you're hiding something important. Her expression softens. Ethan, what happened? Ethan sighs, setting his comic aside. Just some guys at school. That's no big deal. They broke your glasses. On purpose. Ava's voice rises indignantly. Gosh. Ethan glances anxiously at his door. He said it's no big deal. It happens. It shouldn't happen, Ava says, her amber eyes flashing with anger. Who are they? What are their names? Just some fifth graders, Tommy Wilson and his friends. Ethan shrugs, trying to appear casual. They're jerks to everyone. Why haven't you told your mom? Because she'd make a big deal out of it. She'd go to the school and talk to the principal. And then it would get worse. Ethan fiddles with the tape on his glasses. Besides, she's happy right now. I don't want to ruin that. Ava growls. An actual growl that sounds distinctly wolf-like. Hess isn't right, Ethan. In the pack. No one would dare treat you this way. Well, and not in a pack. Ethan reminds her. You have to stand up for yourself. Ava says firmly. Some people only understand dominance. That's how it works in a pack? I'm not a shifter, Ava. Eth unsighs. I can't exactly growl and show my teeth. So? You're still pack. Ava declares with such conviction. Ethan blinks in surprise. You're in my pack. And pack protects each other. I am? Ethan asks, something warm and furling in his chest. Of course you are. Ava says if it's the most obvious thing in the world. Being pack isn't just about being a shifter. It's about loyalty and trust, and having each other's backs. Ethan smiles, his throat suddenly tight with emotion. They've never been anyone's pack before. Well, you are now. Ava says decisively. She reaches out and squeezes his hand. But you're not alone anymore. Ethan, you've got me. Ethan squeezes back, a strange sense of relief washing over him. All his life, it's just been him and his mind against the world. Having someone else having a pack feels like having a family. Chapter 11. Elena afternoon light filters through the curtains, casting a warm glow across Elena's bedroom. She lies with her head on Mason's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. I've missed this, he murmurs, pressing his lips to her forehead. Elena chuckles. You saw me this morning, and last night, and yesterday afternoon in the supply closet. Do you know what I mean? Mason says softly, and she does. It's not just about these past few weeks. Her stolen moments and secret smiles. It's about the decade they lost. The life they might have had. Elena props herself up on one elbow, studying his face in the warm light. There's a contentment there she hasn't seen before, as if some of the weight he carries has been temporarily lifted. Why did you leave then? She asks the question. That's been burning inside her since he reappeared. Really, what happened? Mason's expression shifts. The contentment fades. He takes a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. My family was in crisis. They needed me. Has this have to do with what happened to Elliot? Elena asks gently. Mason tenses, his jaw clenching as he looks away. Yes. Elena waits for more, but Mason remains silent, his body suddenly rigid beside her. Frustration wells up inside her. Always these walls. These secrets. Something in his expression stops her usual retort. There's pain there. Run deep. And for once, Elena chooses patience. She takes his hand, threading her fingers through his. You don't have to tell me everything, she says softly. I would have liked to be there for you back then. And I'd like to be there for you now. Mason turns to her, gratitude and anguish warring in his eyes. I know. I'm sorry. He brings their joined hands to his lips. I want to tell you everything, but he trails off, looking torn, almost frightened. What are you so afraid of? Elena asks. Myself. Mason answers simply, his voice hollow. Elena frowns, confused. What does that mean? Mason shakes his head, his expression so distraught that Elena's heart aches for him. Whatever demons he's fighting, they're real enough to him. Just promise you won't leave me again, she says instead. Not like before. Not without explaining. I promise, Mason says, meeting her eyes with an intensity that makes her breath catch. Even when your daughter comes home? Yes, he nods, then with a small smile adds, though who knows when that will be. Elena studies him, noting how his body has relaxed at the mention of his daughter. Any developments on that front? Not yet, Mason says, that there's something almost peaceful in his tone. But I know where she is. I know she's safe. And she seems happy. That's good, Elena says. There's something about his certainty puzzles her. Thank you, Mason says suddenly, his amber eyes warm. For what? For more than you know. Elena glances at the clock and sighs, reluctantly dissenting herself from him. I have to go. I want to surprise Ethan and pick him up from school. She doesn't add that she's been worried about her son lately. The broken glasses, the way he changes the subject. And she asks about his day. Mason watches her as she dresses, his expression unreadable. On impulse, Elena turns to him. Want to come with me? Mason's eyebrows shoot up in surprise. Want me to meet your son? Well, you've already met him. Elena points out, buttoning her shirt. Yes, but Mason looks almost shy. Which seems ridiculous for a man of his presence. That's different. Elena laughs, delighted by this unexpected vulnerability. We could get ice cream afterward. You in or what? A slow smile spreads across Mason's face. Yes. Great, we just need to pick up things first, Elena says, reaching for her shoes. Don't worry, she's very well behaved around you lately. She better be, Mason mutters. What? Nothing, he says quickly, climbing out of bed. 40 minutes later, they're walking toward the elementary school, Fangs trotting obediently beside them. Elena can't help noticing how attentive Mason is. Choo. With an almost paternal vigilance. Fangs, for her part, remains unusually still and quiet around Mason. Oh, not aggressive. It's as if she's on her best behavior, or afraid to make a wrong move. The school's just around this corner, Elena says, her stomach fluttering with nerves. Of course it matters what Ethan thinks of Mason. Her son has always been and will always be her priority. If Ethan doesn't like Mason well, they'd have time to get to know him better. But Elena finds herself desperately hoping they'll connect. She wants her son to be happy, to feel comfortable with this new development in their lives. Suddenly, Fang stops walking, her ears perking up. Wolf tilts her head, as if listening to something beyond human hearing, her body growing tense. What's wrong with her? Elena asks, tightening her grip on the leash. Mason frowns, studying the wolf with concern. I don't know. Fangs begins to whine. A high-pitched sound that sends chills down Eleanor's spine. The wolf paws at the ground anxiously, her whole body quivering with barely contained energy. She's never acted like this before, Helena says, struggling to keep hold of the leash. As Fangs begins to pull forward, something's wrong, Mason mutters, his expression darkening. I'm sure he'll be. Mason stops abruptly as Fangs suddenly bolts, yanking the leash from Elena's hand. But even though Elena barely registers the strange name, as they both break into a run after the wolf, who's sprinting toward a commotion in far side of the playground. As they round the corner of the building, Elena's heart drops. Ethan is backed against the wall, surrounded by 3 larger boys. One of them, a bulky kid with a buzz cut, holds Ethan's glasses just out of reach, while the others laugh. Give them back, Tommy, Ethan's saying, his voice steady despite his obvious fear. Make me for ice. The boy taunts. Oh wait, you can't even see without them, can you? Fangs reaches them before Elena and Mason do, launching herself at the bully with a ferocious growl. The boy screams as Fangs knocks him to the ground, standing over him with bared teeth. Her hackles raised. Fangs! No! Ethan cries, but the wolf ignores him, continuing to growl at the terrified boy. Mason surges forward. Ava! He commands, his voice carrying a strange power. That makes the hair on Eleanor's arms stand up. Stop, now. To Eleanor's astonishment, Fangs, or Ava, immediately backs off, her head lowering in submission. Mason grabs her by the scruff, his face drained of all color, his jaw clenched so tight, Eleanor can see a muscle jumping in his cheek. How could you? He hisses at the wolf, his voice low but edged with steel. I taught you better than this. This boy is human. Do you understand what could have happened? If I hadn't been here, the wolf whimpers under his gaze, and Eleanor is struck by how human the interaction seems. Like a father reprimanded a child. Not a man talking to an animal. Mason. Eleanor calls, confusion swirling inside her. He doesn't seem to hear her. His entire focus is on the wolf. His hands are shaking as he lifts Fangs into his arms, his face a mask of barely controlled terror. Eleanor rushes to Ethan, pulling him away from the wall. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Her hands move frantically over his arms, his face, checking for injuries. I'm fine, Mom, Ethan insists, though his voice shakes. It wasn't a big deal. It is a big deal, Eleanor says. Fury building inside her. She turns to the bully who's scrambling to his feet. Are you okay? She asks, because she has to. Because she's a responsible adult. Even when she wants to shake the kid. Until his teeth rattled. A boy nods, wide-eyed and pale, clutching Ethan's glasses in his fist. Elena holds out her hand, and he surrenders them immediately, before backing away with his friends. When Elena turns back to Mason, he's cradling Fangs in his arms, his expression stricken. The wolf is oddly docile, almost limp in his grasp. What happened? Elena asks. But Mason isn't looking at her. Mason, wait, what's going on? What did you call her? Mason backs away, his face a mask of anguish. This was a mistake, he says, his voice hollow. I'm sorry, Elena. What? Wait, Elena calls, as Mason turns and strides toward the parking lot, where a black SUV Elena has never seen before is parked. Where are you going? Mason. Wait, he doesn't stop, doesn't look back. He places Fangs in the passenger seat and climbs in after her. Elena shouts again, but the engine roars to life, and the car pulls away, leaving her standing in the schoolyard, holding Ethan's broken glasses, her heart cracking open all over again. Mom. Ethan's voice is small, frightened. What just happened? Elena pulls her son close, watching the SUV disappear around the corner. I don't know, baby, she whispers. a cold certainty settling in her gut. I have a very bad feeling about it. Chapter 12. It's been 24 hours since her father dragged Dava away from Ethan, away from Elena. 24 hours of whispers from the pack members, sideways glances, and her father's deafening silence. A tear slides down her cheek, followed by another. This is exactly why she ran away in the first place. At the inn, with Ethan and Elena. She wasn't judged for being an imperfect shifter. I didn't care about protocol, or pack politics, or perfect control. They were just happy. A soft knock at the door makes Ava quickly wipe her tears away. Ava? Her father's voice is tentative, nothing like the commanding tone he'd used yesterday. Go away, she mutters, but not loudly enough to actually keep him out. The door opens, and Mason stands in the doorway, hesitating before stepping inside. He looks exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his usually impeccable appearance rumpled. I'm sorry I didn't come sooner, he says quietly, approaching but not sitting, as if unsure of his welcome. I needed time. Ava shrugs, turning back to the window. Whatever. I also want to apologize for taking you away like that. Mason runs a hand through his hair. I felt I had no choice. When I saw you attack that boy, I wouldn't have harmed him. Ava interrupts, finally turning to look at her father. You don't know that, Mason snaps, his voice suddenly sharp. You weren't in control. Of course I was. Ava shoots back, standing up to face him. Mason's face darkens, a flash of genuine anger crossing his features. So, you're telling me you intentionally attacked a human? Do you hear yourself? Have you forgotten the punishment for such a crime? He deserved it, Ava cries, her own anger bubbling up. He was bullying Ethan. He broke his glasses and was laughing about it. Mason's mouth snaps shut, his jaw working as he processes this. Ava can see the conflict in his eyes, the protective instinct, warring with his rigid adherence to patois. See? Ava says, her voice breaking. You agree, don't you? You know I was right to defend him. Mason takes a deep breath, visibly gathering his composure. I understand you wanted to defend Ethan, he says carefully, but using our powers against humans who have none. It isn't fair, Ava. Not only is it dangerous for the humans, but it risks exposing our entire pack, our entire kind. Ava drops her gaze, knowing there's truth in his words. I only wanted to scare him, she admits softly. I'd never have actually hurt him. Even so, her father says, his voice heavy with finality, I cannot allow you to continue seeing Ethan. What? Ava gasps. But Daddy's my best friend. Then you'll do what's right for him. Mason interrupts firmly. Humans are fragile, Ava. What about Ethan's mom? Ava challenges, watching her father's face carefully. I know you like her, Dad. I saw you kissing. Mason grimaces, running a hand over his face. You saw that, did you? Of course I did, Ava says, crossing her arms. Mason sinks onto the edge of her bed, his shoulders slumping. It's wonderful that you made a friend, Ava. And yes, seeing Elena again was. He pauses, searching for the right word. He doesn't find it. Why can't be together? He says instead. It's not right, Dad. That's bullshit. Ava blurts out. Language, Mason snaps. Dad, that's scrap. Ava corrects. We were so happy there. Why can't we go see them? I'm sure they miss us, or at least me. A weak attempt at humor falls flat. Heard Ad's eyes grow distant, as if seeing something far away. There's something you need to know, he says finally. Eva sits beside him, suddenly nervous. What is it? You know I wasn't always meant to be Alpha. Mason begins. Your Uncle Elliot was the firstborn. A heir, groomed from childhood to lead the pack. Ava nods. Elliot was everything an alpha should be. Strong, controlled. Mason's voice grows strained. I idolized him, followed him everywhere. He pauses, and Ava waits, barely breathing. When we were in our early 20s, Mason explains. Elliot had formed a friendship with a young woman from town. A human. Claire, her name was. He never told our father. It was forbidden, of course. Oh. Ava shifts closer. One night, Elliot and I were running in the woods. When we heard screaming, Mason's face darkens with the memory. We found Claire being attacked by a group of men from town. They were drunk, holding her down, trying to. He pauses, jaw clenching, trying to hurt her. Ava's eyes widen with horror. Elliot lost control completely. Mason's voice grows hollow. He shifted not partially, fully right in front of them. He went for the leader's throat, tore it open in one bite. Ava gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. By the time I pulled him off, the man was dead. The others had fled. Mason swallows visibly. They saw everything. Saw what we are. Oh my God. Ava breathes. Realization dawning. Mason stares at his hands. We ran home. Told our father what happened. The council was convened, and Ava presses when he falls silent. Mason's eyes meet hers, haunted with old pain. Elliot couldn't become alpha after that. He trails off, unable to continue. Where is Uncle Elliot now? Ava asks, her voice small. Was he banished? Mason doesn't answer at first, just shakes his head slightly. Dad, Ava insists. Where is he? Mason sighs. He's gone, Ava. He was executed for his crime. Ava gasps, horror washing over her. A human life was taken, Mason says. And there's only one punishment. That's not fair. Ava whispers, tears streaming down her face now. My father, your grandfather, died of a broken heart shortly after. Mason continues, his voice hollow. And suddenly, I was alpha. And not because I was ready, not because I was chosen, but because there was no one else. Ava throws her arms around her father and feels him trembling slightly. As he returns the embrace. I'm so sorry, Dad. She sobs. I never wanted to burden you with this. Mason murmurs into her hair. I was trying to protect you. From what? Ava pulls back to look at him. From the weight of our history. His hand gently cups her cheek. You have to understand, Ava. My brother was the most controlled person I knew. And even he slipped. That's why I've been so strict with you about control. And that's why I left Elena. Ava realizes pieces falling into place. Mason nods, pain etching deeper lines around his eyes. When Elliot died, I became alpha. I knew I couldn't stay with her. What if I lost control? What if I hurt her? His gaze softens as it rests on Ava. And then, even after your mother, I couldn't risk exposing you to the human world. Couldn't risk history repeating itself. But Dad, Ava protests. I would never. You already did. Mason reminds her gently. Yesterday, when you saw Ethan being bullied, you lost control. You attacked a human boy. Not really. Maybe not. Mason concedes. The risk is too great, Ava. I will always look to protect you first and foremost, even from yourself if necessary. Ava leans against her father's shoulder, the fight gone out of her. She understands now. The fear in his eyes wasn't disappointment in her. It was terror at what might have happened. What they might have lost. So, I guess I'm grounded, huh? He asks finally, her voice small. For running away. Absolutely, Mason confirms. Hi. There's a hint of relief in his voice at the change of subject. For a very long time, and Ethan and Delana. Mason's arm tightens around her shoulders. It's better for everyone if we stay away, for their safety as much as ours. Ava curls into her father's embrace, feeling both comforted and heartbroken. She doesn't want to let her father down. Not now, when she finally understands what he's been carrying all these years. But as night falls over the pack house, the room feels too big, too quiet. Without Ethan's constant questions and commentary, the bed too empty, without Elena checking in on them before turning out the lights. She misses the creaky floorboards of the inn, the smell of Elena's coffee in the morning, the sound of Ethan reading aloud from his latest comic book. She misses feeling normal, feeling accepted. Not like the Alpha's daughter, with all those expectations, but just Eva. But now she understands why they can't go back. It's not just pack rules or her father's strictness. It's about protection. Protection for Ethan, for Elena, even for her father, who's already lost so much. Chapter 13. A week that's how long it's been since Ava and her father disappeared from Pine Haven. No more secret conversations. No more adventures. No more feeling like he finally belongs somewhere, with someone. But perhaps even worse is watching his mom try to pretend she's okay. Elena smiles too brightly, laughs too loudly, and avoids any mention of Mason or Ava. But Ethan knows better. Hears her crying at night, when she thinks he's asleep. Now past midnight, Ethan creeps down the hallway, toward the soft sounds coming from his mother's studio. The door is cracked open. A sliver of light spills onto the floor. Elena sits cross-legged on the floor, holding a small photograph that Ethan has never seen before. Mom, Ethan whispers. Elena starts hastily wiping her eyes. Hi, Hannah, what are you doing up? Couldn't sleep. Ethan sits beside her on the floor. Is that him? Elena looks down at the photo. For a moment, Ethan thinks she might deny it. Instead, she hands it to him. That was a long time ago, she says softly. Before you. Ethan studies the image. His mother looks different. Longer hair, wider smile. Politeness to her that he's never quite seen before. And Mason. He looks younger too. Less burdened somehow. You loved him, Ethan says. And it isn't a question. Juana sighs, gathering a few sketches into a loose pile. You know what's funny? When he came back into my life, I was furious. Somewhere along the way, I started to forgive him. I started to think maybe we could try again. She shakes her head. I just wish I knew why he keeps running. Ethan stares at his hands, guilt churning in his stomach. He knows why Mason left, because he's a shifter. But he's promised Eva he wouldn't tell. I'm sorry, Mom, Ethan says quietly. Elena looks at him then, her eyes softening. Oh, baby. She pulls him into a hug. I've been so caught up in my own drama. I haven't even asked how you're doing without things. Ethan swallows hard as Elena strokes his hair. Maybe we can find you another dog. No. The word comes out sharper than he intends. I don't want another dog. Elena kisses the top of his head. Come on. Let's wait, we both need sleep. But Ethan can't sleep. He lies awake, staring at the ceiling, in a room that feels too big without Ava. His mom must feel the same way. Alone in her room without Ava's dad. If only there were a way to bring them back together. If only he could bridge the gap between the human and werewolf worlds. If only. The words echo as he tosses and turns. And now he needs the bathroom. With a sigh, he slips out of bed. The hallway is dark and still. He tiptoes across the wooden floor and slowly turns the bathroom doorknob, careful not to make a sound. But as he pushes the door open, A strange sensation hits, like walking through static. Ethan blinks, momentarily blinded by daylight. When his vision clears, he gasps. He's not in the bathroom. He's in a narrow hall between towering bookshelves, sunlight filtering through tall windows onto a worn wooden floor. "Hello?" he calls, his voice small in the cavernous space. No reply. It must be a dream, but the dust under his fingers feels real to real. His soft creak echoes somewhere deeper. And what he now realizes is a bookshop. Heart pounding, Ethan moves toward a warm glow ahead. Turning the corner, he finds a young woman perched on a desk, flipping through a magazine. Her strawberry blonde hair is piled into a messy bun, and one ear bristles with piercings. She doesn't look up, just flips a page in size. "But, excuse me," Ethan ventures. The girl shrieks, hurling the magazine into the air. Sorry. Ethan backs up, hands raised. "I didn't mean to scare you." The girl clutches her chest, glaring at him. "How did you even get in here?" "I don't know," Ethan replies. "I opened the bathroom door and there I was." The girl's expression shifts from annoyance to interest. "Well," she comments, "life finds a way, I guess." Ethan blinks at her, confused. "Jurassic Park," the girl says, pointing to Ethan's pajama shirt. "Thought you might have been a fan." He blinks down at the large dinosaur on his shirt, and back up. He confesses, feeling himself blush. The deep man's voice interrupts. "Iris, did you break something again?" I heard shrieking. Ethan feels a strange chill run down his spine. When the man steps into view, he's impossibly tall and thin, with copper-colored hair that sticks up at odd angles, and eyes so green they seem to glow in the dim light. "Who's this?" the man says, his head tilting slightly. "A client," the girl, Iris, explains, "who's deceptively not a Jurassic Park fan." "What say Jurassic Park?" the man asks, squinting his eyes. Iris gasps in outrage. "Okay, he's 8, so he's forgiven." "I'm 10. Ethan butts in, going perfectly ignored. "But you, sir, have absolutely no excuse. What's your name?" the man interrupts, turning to Ethan. "Ethan Davis." "Great. I'm Adrian." "This is Iris." The man points to the blonde girl. "Now that we've met, you may go." Ethan looks around uneasy. "Go where?" he asks nervously. "I don't even know how I got here." Adrian gives Iris a glance. "What?" she tells him. "He's in his pajamas." "Obviously, he didn't go through the front door." Adrian sighs, rubbing his eyelids. "Okay, kid," Iris says, turning back to Ethan. "Let me break it down for you. You're in a magic shop. Adrian here practices magic." "Magic?" Ethan gasps, curiosity overriding his nervousness briefly. "What type of magic?" "Wishes," Adrian replies, like this somehow makes sense. "What?" Ethan asks, because it really doesn't. "I grant wishes," the man explains. "The shop merely provides a meeting place." "Wishes?" Ethan's eyes widen. "Like any wish?" "Pretty much, yes," Adrian confirms. "People like you arrive here when they truly desire something. Something they cannot obtain through ordinary means." "So, you wish to be here?" "Not precisely. You wished for a solution to a problem that seems insurmountable." Adrian's green eyes hold Ethan's. "And here you are." Ethan thinks about his mom, about Avi and Mason, about the impossible distance between their worlds. "Can you really grant any wish?" Are limitations," Adrian says carefully. "And consequences." "He means there's a price." Iris interjects. "The big one, he takes whatever you value most." "Iris," Adrian sighs, "perhaps a bit of tact." "Whatever." Iris hops off the desk. "Dad, listen. People come here desperate for things." Adrian grants their wishes, but in exchange, they lose what matters most to them. "And it's Never what they expect. Ethan frowns. Like if I wished for $1 million, you'd take something important from me. Yes, Adrian nods. And it's rarely a material possession. Usually it's like your ability to love, or your memories of your dead grandma. Or something equally tragic, Iris says. So, think twice before making a wish, and then don't make one. Go home. Ethan considers this a wish that could change everything, but at a terrible cost. I want to bring Eva back, he says slowly, and her dad. I want my mom to be happy again. Ah, Adrian's expression softens slightly. A family matter. You got that from his vague explanation? Iris whistles. Good on you, man. Adrian grins discreetly. Mason, that save his dad, left because he's afraid. Ethan explains. Have them go to couples therapy, Iris offers. Ethan shakes his head. He's a werewolf, and my mom's human. He thinks it's too dangerous for them to be together. Adrian and Iris share a look. He's not entirely wrong. Adrian notes. Shifters and humans rarely mix well. But they love each other. Ethan insists. And Dave is my best friend. That's nice, Adrian comments, tone blank. But living among shifters could easily kill you. Ethan stares at his hands, thinking hard. Ava did say a bite would kill humans. His head snaps up, eyes wide with realization. Wait, could I wish for us to be werewolves too? Me and my mom? The room goes still. Adrian's face remains carefully blank. But something in his posture changes, becomes more alert. You could, he says reluctantly, but you shouldn't. Ethan, remember, I would take what's most precious to you in return. Ethan opens his mouth to protest. Iris intervenes. Look, kid, she says, leaning forward. Couldn't your mom find another nice single dad? Plenty of other fish in the sea and all that. Ethan shakes his head firmly. No, she can't. She's loved Ava's dad since forever. It's true love. Would you give up on your true love? He asks, staring Iris in the eyes. She clears her throat awkwardly. Besides, Ethan adds, there's only one Ava. He looks up at Adrian, determination hardening his features. To his surprise, the magician kneels down to eye level with him. All right, he says. Ken, I will tell you the price in advance. Beside him, Iris stakes in a sharp breath. Adrian, she protests nervously, making Ethan furrow his brows. It's fine, Adrian interrupts, giving her a look. He turns back to Ethan, stares him down, and then, what you value most, Ethan Davis, is the hope of meeting your father someday. The words hang heavy in the air between them. His father. Ethan swallows hard, thinking of the shadowy figure whose absence has shaped so much of his life. More questions than answers. But he left before I was born, Ethan murmurs. Nevertheless, you've held on to the hope that someday he might want to know you. Adrian's green eyes are eerily penetrating. If you make this wish, that possibility vanishes forever. Ethan swallows. He didn't think he'd feel a sense of loss over never knowing his absent father. But there it is. Except, on top of the blurry image of some unknown man, comes Ava's sharp grin, his mother's warmth, the feel of her arms around him, and her joy, all their joy, these past few days when Ava and Mason had still been with them. I want to make the wish, Ethan murmurs. I don't need a dad who doesn't want me. I need my mom to be happy. I want us to have a real family. One who loves us back. Adrian nods resolutely. I could make it so that if your mother chooses, a bite from a shifter would transform her safely, rather than kill her. The same would apply to you. There would be no obstacle preventing you from being with your shifter friends. Ethan beams, but Adrian goes on. However, he holds up a warning finger. You might want to discuss this with her first. ensure that she and Mason truly wish to reconcile. They will, Ethan says. I know they will. He takes a deep breath. I wish that my mom and I could safely be turned into wolves. Shifters if we wanted to be with Avi and Mason. For a moment, nothing happens. Then Adrian closes his eyes, a shudder running through his too thin frame. The shadows in the shop seem to deepen, to coil around him like hungry serpents. When he opens his eyes again, they glow with an unearthly light. Chapter 14. Nia now wakes to silence. Ethan is already at school, and the bed feels too big, too empty. The space where Mason once slept is cold. She pulls his pillow close, breathing in the fading scent of pine and winter storms, grief tightening in her chest. She rolls onto her back, staring at the ceiling, replaying Mason's departure, the terror in his eyes as he scooped up Fangs. Like it had been Ava all along, the way he muttered about mistakes, the stiff set of his shoulders as he drove away. Something had been wrong. Panic that went deeper than anger. And Delana can't stop asking. What scared him so badly? What was he hiding? With a sigh, she drags herself out of bed. Her reflection tells the story. Dark circles, tangled hair, a hollow kind of exhaustion. She scrubs her face, trying to summon a sense of normal, before heading downstairs to face the day. Like, when she opens her door, she freezes. Fangs is there, sitting on the threshold, her sandy fur glowing in the morning light. The wolf tilts her head, ember eyes watching Elena, with an intelligence that seems more pronounced than ever. Oh my God. Elena breathes, joy flooding through her. Fangs, you're back. She drops to her knees, curling her arms around the wolf's neck. Fangs allows the embrace, her tail giving a tentative wag. Ethan's going to be so happy, Elena says, pulling back to scratch behind the wolf's ears. He's at school right now, but Fangs makes a soft sound in her throat. Not quite a growl, more like disagreement. Then, to Elena's astonishment, the wolf pulls away and trots purposefully into the apartment. Hey, wait, Elena calls, following. They just told you Ethan isn't. But Fangs isn't looking for Ethan. Instead, the wolf heads straight to his room, disappearing inside. Elena hears the sound of a closet door opening, followed by rustling. Fangs. What are you doing? When she reaches Ethan's doorway, Elena watches as Fangs emerges from the closet, with one of Ethan's oversized sweaters clamped firmly in her jaws. The wolf looks directly at Elena. Then, Elena screams. Where the wolf had been standing, there's now a small girl with wild red hair and bright blue eyes, clutching Ethan's sweater to her chest, like a makeshift dress. The transformation happens so quickly, so impossibly, that Elena's mind simply refuses to process it. Please don't be afraid, the girl says quickly. Elena backs away, her brain desperately trying to make sense of what she's seeing. You're not hallucinating. The girl assures her, taking a cautious step forward. My name is Ava. Elena's legs threaten to give out. Ava is in Mason's. His daughter. Yes. The girl even nods enthusiastically. I'm going crazy, Elena whispers, sliding down to sit on the floor. You're not crazy, Ava says, sitting cross-legged in front of her. You can ask Ethan when he gets home. Ethan? Elena's voice cracks. You've spoken to him before? Well, of course, Ava says. I stayed with you guys for a while. Elena presses her hands to her temples, trying to process this revelation. You're telling me that all this time, Fangs wasn't a wolf. She was you, a little girl who can turn into a wolf? That my son has known this entire time? Yes, Ava confirms. Elena stares at her, memories flooding back. How intelligent Fangs had seemed, how attached Ethan had become to the wolf, how naturally Ava had fit into their lives. My dad said it was dangerous. And I promised him I wouldn't come back. And I had to say goodbye properly. And thank you. Thank me, Eleanor repeats. Still dazed. Ava nods. For letting me stay. For being so kind to me. For making me feel like I could have had a real mom. Her voice wavers on the last word. Delana's heart clenches despite her confusion. I would have loved for you to be my mom. Ava whispers, tears welling in her blue eyes. And I think your paintings are beautiful. In another life, maybe you could have taught me. The tears spill over. An instinct overtakes shock. Elena reaches out, gathering the crying child into her arms. Piva clings to her, her small body shaking with sobs. Shh. It's okay. Elena murmurs, stroking the girl's hair. It's going to be okay. As Ava cries herself out, Elena's mind races. Does your father know? She asks when Ava's sobs have quieted to sniffles. That you cannot your... Oh, yes. Ava nods, pulling back to wipe her eyes. He can do it too. Elena feels the world tilt again. Mason is a shifter like me. Ava bites her lip. Please don't tell him I told you. He'd be so mad. But I just wanted to explain why we had to leave. Elena struggles to form words. Her Mason can transform into a wolf. A man she'd loved, who'd held her and kissed her, and then left without explanation twice, had been hiding this the whole time. So, you've really been Fangs. Elena manages, living with us all this time. Ava nods. A shy smile appearing. So why is it dangerous? Helena asks, trying to understand. Dangerous for who? Ava's expression grows solemn. If a werewolf bites a human, it kills them. That's what happened to my Uncle Elliot. Elena's breath catches. Elliot. He bit someone to protect a friend. Ava explains quietly. A human died, and Elliot was executed for it. It broke my grandfather's heart. And he died too. That's when my dad had to become Alpha and leave you. The pieces fall into place with devastating clarity. Nathan hadn't chosen his family over her. He'd been thrust into leadership during a tragedy, terrified of repeating his brother's mistake. But he really didn't want to leave. Ava insists, seeing the understanding dawn in Elena's eyes. He loves you. He's been so sad without you. Elena struggles to make sense of it all. Werewolves, executions, a hidden world woven into her own. It's overwhelming. But one thing is clear. She's uncovered something vital about Mason. Something that explains the shadows in his eyes, the distance he kept even in their closest moments. And somehow, that knowledge softens her anger. The betrayal she's carried for 10 years shifts into something deeper. Empathy, understanding, and a sorrow for what they both lost. The forces beyond their control. Ava's eyes fill with fresh airs, and Elena pulls her close. I'd like to say goodbye to your father too, she says gently. Let me take you home. Ava sniffles. I promise not to tell him I told you. I promise. They're just standing up. When there's a knock at the door, Elena opens it and finds herself face to face with Mason, his amber eyes wide with shock. And beside him stands Ethan, looking both nervous and determined. For a moment, nobody moves. They just stare at each other, Elena and Mason, locked in a gaze that holds too many emotions to name. While Ethan and Ava grin at each other. By co-conspirators, I have your kid. Mason says finally, his voice rough. And I have yours. Elena replies weakly. They continue staring, the air between them crackling with unspoken feelings. Then, simultaneously, about your brother, Elena begins. I shouldn't have left the way I did, Mason says. They both freeze. I think I understand why you did, Elena says quietly. Mason's face tightens. I don't think you do. She does. Dad, Ava pipes up. I told her. What? Mason looks between his daughter and Elena. More confused than angry. Elena reaches out, taking his hand and squeezing it gently. Is it true? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Mason searches her face, understanding what she's asking. His shoulders slumps lightly. Yes, he admits. It's true. Elena nods slowly, the weight of his secrets finally making sense. The fear, the distance, the sudden departures, it all stems from this enormous truth. He's been carrying alone. So many times I wanted to tell you, Mason says, his voice breaking. I was going to leave my pack, my family, everything for you. But then, Elliot, Elena finishes softly. Yes. Mason's grip on her hand tightens. It's delicate enough telling a human about our kind. But to tell you and then just leave you? He stops, swallows hard. But mostly, Elena, I just didn't trust myself with you. I still don't, especially now that you have a child. Because it's too risky. Tears spill down Elena's cheeks as the full implications hit her. She doesn't want to risk Ethan's life, no matter how much she loves Mesa. Well, about that, Ethan interrupts, stepping forward with a confidence Elena's never seen before. I actually fixed it. What? Elena and Mason say in unison. You fixed it? Ava shouts, her face lighting up with immediate belief and excitement. Ethan nods, a small smile playing at his lips. I met this guy, a magician named Adrian. He grants wishes, but takes something important in return. I wish that Mom and I could be turned safely into werewolves, if we wanted to. Oh my God. Ava screams, literally bouncing with joy. Ethan, you genius. You made a conditional, my faltering wish, to some unknown dark magician. Without telling us? Mason's voice rises with a mixture of horror and something else, something that sounds suspiciously like paternal concern. Well, yeah. Ethan shrugs. It's great because now we can be a family. Mom can be with you, and I know you love him. So, I did it for you. Elena's mind reels with the implications. Her 10-year-old son has made a magical bargain to solve their supernatural relationship problems. It's absurd, terrifying, and somehow perfectly Ethan. I made Sarah look. Just a glance. It carries everything. Love, hope, the promise of possibilities she'd never dared imagine. A warmth spreads through her chest. Fragile and wonderful. But above all this newfound hope, there's one overwhelming emotion. Absolute, unadulterated anger. Ethan Davis, Eleanor exclaims, her voice carrying the full force of maternal fury. You're in very big trouble. Chapter 15. I can't believe they grounded you. Ava complains, pacing across Ethan's room. You literally solved all our problems. You're a little hero. Ethan shrugs from his perch on the windowsill. It's okay. It was worth it. Ava shouldn't be here. She was supposed to stay downstairs. While the adults start, that she'd snuck up the moment no one was looking. Now they sit together, watching their parents in the garden below. Mason and Delanost and close, hands intertwined, heads bent together as they whisper. They look happy, Ethan thinks, or at least they're getting there. Happiness is complicated for adults, but this seems like a good start. You think we're going to stay together from now on? Ava asks softly. I hope so, Ethan grins. Can't wait to be a shifter. Oh, I'll teach you everything. Ava bounces excitedly. How to track, scent, pattern super fast. Her excitement fades suddenly. Like a light being switched off. She goes very still, her usual animated expression, replaced by something more serious. Ethan, she starts, then stops. For a long moment, she just stares at her hands, picking at a loose thread on Ethan's bedspread. Then, a magician, when you made the wish, what did you trade for it? She finally asks, her voice barely above a whisper. You said he takes what matters most to you. Ethan's quiet for a moment, watching a bird hop along the garden fence below. The possibility of seeing my father again. Ava's eyes widen, genuine shock replacing her hesitation. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again. But that's your father, Ethan. Doesn't it make you sad? A little, Ethan admits. I guess he's not really my father, is he? He laughed. He watches the garden below. Mom's my parent, he concludes. Though I do hope one day. He trails off, still watching Mason laugh at something Elena says. Ava's quiet for a long moment, and throws herself at Ethan in a fierce hug. Thank you, she whispers. He hugs her back just as tight. When they look out the window again, their parents are kissing. You did, they chorus, then dissolve into giggles. We actually did it, Ava whispers, her eyes shining. Ethan grins. They really did. Epilogue. The garden behind the inn is unrecognizable. From a year ago, twinkling lights wrap every branch. White roses bloom impossibly late for October. Rows of chairs face the arch, for Elena just pledged forever. To the man she never truly stopped loving. Now, as the pack celebrates their alpha's wedding, with music and dancing, Elena finds herself alone with Mason in their bedroom, nerves thrumming for an entirely different reason. "We're sure about this?" Mason asks for the 100th time. Pacing. His shirt is unbuttoned, his hair tousled from anxious fingers. Elena steps in, placing her hands on his chest. The gold band on her finger catches the moonlight. "We've discussed this endlessly, Mason. I'm sure. A year of healing, of rebuilding trust, introducing Ethan to pack life, and letting old wounds mend. I've chosen this future. But what if? We met with a magician again, and he assured it would work." She reminds him, "You even spoke to others who used his magic. It's going to be okay." His amber eyes darken. "Elena, I've never. I can't bear the thought of hurting you." She cups his face. "This is for us, for our family." Ethan's already asking when it's his turn. Avos plan their first run together. The mention of their children offends him. Ethan and Ava are inseparable, true siblings. Ethan thrives under Mason's attention, growing bolder with each shared interest, while Ava and Delano spend hours painting in the studio. Wild with creativity. They're already a family. This is just the final step. "I love you," Elena whispers. "Trust in that." Mason closes his eyes. When he opens them, the wolf glimmers behind them. "I love you too. More than I ever thought possible." He kisses her, deep, tender, full of promises. When he pulls back, things show and his eyes glow gold. Elena lies back, throat exposed, her heart racing with anticipation, not fear. "Do it," she breathes. He nuzzles her neck before biting. The pain steals her breath, fire in her veins, bones shifting, muscles tearing and reforming. Nathan's voice soothes her through it all. Then transformation. She blinks, now on all fours. Her body is powerful, covered in thick fur. Every sense is heightened. The scent of cake, the skitter of mice, music vibrating through the floor. A soft whine escapes. In the mirror, she sees a silver-streaked wolf with Elena's eyes. Her tail flicks instinctively, expressing emotions she hadn't even processed yet. Notably, strangely, it's like she can suddenly feel Mason. Not just beside her, but inside her mind. His love washes over her like warm sunlight, along with echoes of his fear, his joy, his overwhelming relief that she survived the change. "What is this?" she thinks. "To mate bond." He answers. "We'll complete it later. First, you need to run." A slip into the night, the wolves racing beneath the full moon. Elena revels in the freedom. Mason beside her. When they return, breathless and glowing with moonlight. They shift back. Lena stands before Mason, the bond pulsing between them. How do you feel? He asks. Alive, she breathes. More alive than I've ever been. She steps closer, fingertips tracing his chest, hearts pounding in sync. Elena, he murmurs, catching her hand. We don't have to. I want to. She interrupts. I want all of you, Mason. No more barriers, just us. She kisses him slow and deep, then pulls back with a glint in her eyes. My turn, she whispers. She kisseth down his neck. He shudders, groans, his hands tangling in her hair. Do it, he breathes. She bites, tasting copper and magic. He gasps. Part pain, part pleasure. The bond ignites. Thoughts and emotions merge. I love you, she thinks, feeling his answering flood of devotion. When she pulls back, Mace uncups her face, eyes glowing with fierce love. Forever, he says, sealing it with another kiss. Forever, she echoes. Downstairs, Ethan and Dave laugh. Pack still celebrating. Her family, her pack, her future. Elena Davis, Luna of the Pine Haven Pack, smiles against her mate's shoulder. They finally found their happily ever after. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed this story, please consider leaving a comment or sharing it with others.